Welcome back to the Apex Theropod How to Play series. In the previous video, we went over the alert phase. Now we move on to the next 4. The set ambush phase is next, and is played simultaneously, each player performing this step at the same time. During this phase, each player may set up an ambush, meaning they can place up to 3 of their Apex cards from their hand face down on their ambush point. Some cards are considerably stronger and offer more hunt points when played from the ambush point, like the Suchomimus Alpha, which gives an additional 3. Note that Alpha cards are considered Apex cards for this purpose, so they qualify for ambush placement. Pretty simple, but there are conditions affecting when a player can do this, how it is to be used, and other effects. First, a player cannot set an ambush if they played any alert card during the alert phase. Additionally, if a player sets an ambush during this phase, they automatically earn a single alert card to their discard pile. This occurs unless all ambush cards the player set up in the ambush point have this no alert card icon. For example, this player has played 2 cards to the ambush point, one with a no alert icon and another without, so they receive an alert card to their discard pile. Note that ambush point cards cannot be used on the same turn they were placed. When a player does eventually play the cards from the ambush point, they must all be played at once on a single hunt, either in the game trail or in a raider ambush which steals from another player's horde. We'll go over this more in the hunt phase. Any card placed in the ambush point will remain there until played or until an alert card causes them to be discarded. The hand evolve phase comes after everyone completes the ambush phase, and this phase is played simultaneously as well. During this phase, each player will play evolve cards from their hand to the playing field, triggering their effects. Note that in the first round, the starting deck egg will be the only possible evolve card, as it is the only evolve card a player begins the game with. Evolve cards have a variety of effects that increase the effectiveness of the player's hand. Let's look at some. Dynamic Vitality allows a player to draw a card to their hand, as well as eliminate up to 2 affliction cards. These eliminated cards can be either from the player's hand or discard pile, and when a card is eliminated, it is placed in the elimination pile at the top of the hunting grounds. Rapid Incubation allows a player to hatch 4 cards from their Apex deck into their hatchery. If a player ends up hatching a card that has no evolve cost like a hatchling, the card is instead immediately added to the player's hand instead of the hatchery. Some evolve cards offer assistance with alert cards, such as Acute Alertness, which allows the player to place a card in their ambush point without gaining an alert card. Adept Tactics gives the player the ability to eliminate all alert cards from their discard pile. Other evolve cards are more expensive to obtain, but can give greater effects like Adrenal Frenzy, Convergent Evolution, which costs 4 evolve points, and Metabolic Transformation, which costs 6. If a player draws an evolve card into their hand during this phase, it can be played at any time during this phase. As players finish up evolving their hand, the hunt phase comes into view, which is played in turn order. The hunt phase is equivalent to the beef and potatoes of the game. Players will use the cards to hunt in the game trail or even raid another player. Let's first go over using ambush cards, which can be used to either raid another player's horde or to hunt in the game trail. In order to perform a raider ambush, the raider first announces who they will raid. In this case, the Carnotaurus player is the target. This raid will be performed by the Quetzalcoatlus player. Note that raids are performed using only the cards in the ambush point, which are usually hidden face down but are shown here for your instruction. Next, the defender, the Carnotaurus player, chooses their reaction, either fight or flight. If fight, the defender will select any combination of Apex and Alpha cards from their hand. They may also choose to use all the cards from their ambush point, in addition to cards from their hands, or just use the ambush point cards. After both players have selected their cards, they reveal them simultaneously and count up the hunt point totals. Hunt points are shown in the bottom left-hand corner of the card, and some cards may give extra hunt points depending on the text at the bottom of the card. The raider is successful if they match or defeat the defender's total hunt points, while the defender is successful if they beat the raider's total hunt points. The successful player chooses a card from the opponent's horde, placing it in their own horde. The defeated player draws a single affliction card. If it is a severe trauma, they place it on their discard pile, while any other affliction is recycled. If the defender chooses flight, then the raider is automatically successful and chooses a card from the defender's hoard, placing it in their own hoard. In this case, the defender does not reveal any cards. Once the raid is finished, players place the Apex and Alpha cards used in the raid on their discard pile, then the defender draws their hand back up to 6 if necessary, and the raider continues their turn as normal. Note that if the hoard is empty, the successful player may instead take the top card from their opponent's den and place it in their own den. That sums up raider ambushes. Let's move on to hunting in the game trail. To hunt in the game trail, a player plays Apex cards from their hand, optionally including all cards from the ambush point. Players can perform multiple hunts on their turn, but players should note that when using the cards from their ambush point, they may only be used on a single hunt. When playing cards from their hand, the player does so one at a time, placing them in the playing field and optionally activating abilities before placing the next card. The player must add the spendable hunt points up in order to match or exceed the hunt cost of a specific card in the game trail. The hunt cost of a card is shown in the upper right-hand corner. Let's do an example where the Velociraptor player wishes to hunt the Elasmosaurus, which requires 7 hunt points in order to succeed. The player first plays 2 hatchlings, each contributing a single hunt point. Next, the player plays hastelings, which gives 3 more hunt points for a total of 5. This card has an ability at the bottom, which allows the player to gain a Hylian card from their discard pile for each game trail card with an ambush effect, and gives that card type an additional hunt point. The player is able to play 1 Hylian from their discard pile in this example, which contributes 1 hunt point plus the extra from the previous card effect. See here that the Hastelings card had an infiltrate ability shown as well, which, when played, forces all other players to gain an affliction card in player order, which goes to their discard pile. Note that when cards are placed in the discard pile, they are all placed face down, though for the instructional purposes, they are shown face up. With the 7 total hunt points, this player successfully hunts the Elasmosaurus. Once a card has been successfully hunted, it is placed in the player's hoard space face up until the evolve points shown in the bottom left-hand corner have been spent. Note that some cards in the game trail will have an effect that triggers when they are hunted, like this one, which forces the player to gain an affliction card and has a further effect if the card gained was a flesh wound. When a player plays a card to spend its hunt points, these points cannot be split between multiple hunted cards, and any unused hunt points are lost. If a player uses their ambush point to hunt in the game trail, they activate any effects shown one at a time, and if needed, they then play additional cards from their hand. Once a player's turn in the hunt phase has ended, the player must shift each remaining game trail card to the rightmost unoccupied footprint. This includes any face-down cards from the alert phase. Then, they repopulate the game trail, triggering card effects as normal for that player. All footprints should be occupied once finished, with the oldest cards in the rightmost slots. Once each player has performed the hunt phase, the purchase phase begins, which is also played in player order. In this phase, the player will be able to purchase cards from their nesting grounds hatchery, as well as the hunting grounds evolve pool. To do this, players will spend available evolve points from any carcass cards in their hand, or from the hunted creatures in their hoard. In this example, the player plays a prey carcass from their hand for 1 evolve point. Additionally, the player has 2 cards in their hoard, one with 2 evolve points and one with 3. The Velociraptor's Vanguard card in their hatchery costs 4 evolve points shown at the top, and so consumes the prey carcass and the hoard card with 3 evolve points. With the final 2 evolve points in the hoard, the player purchases an egg card from the evolve pool. Both of the cards are taken from their respective areas, the evolve pool and the hatchery, and are placed face down on top of the discard pile. Any spent carcass cards are also placed face down in their discard pile, while spent hoard cards are placed face down in their den. Note that any unused points in a purchase are forfeited, since leftover points cannot be used to purchase other cards. Once a player has finished their purchase phase, the evolve pool is repopulated before moving on to the next player. Now let's quickly go over alpha cards as our final topic. Players begin the game with a single alpha card in their deck, which is the juvenile card. The alpha adult and the alpha veteran are in the player's hatchery. A player can use evolve points during this phase to upgrade their current evolve card to the next stage, from juvenile to adult and from adult to veteran. The current alpha card can be upgraded only when they are in the playing field or in the discard pile. Additionally, once upgraded, the previous alpha card is placed in the elimination pile. In the next and final video, we'll look at how the end of the round is played out, as well as how the game ends.